This is Brent Grover speaking from Evergreen Consulting for Advanced Supply Chain Solutions, powered by IBIS. This month's topic is adding services that customers will pay for, in other words, value-added services. And just to recap what we talked about last week, definition of value-added services, something that customers will pay for that unfortunately for many distributors add cost but don't add to revenues. In other words, those services decrease profits. Customers resist paying for value-added services, which is an enigma for wholesale distributors. Some examples of value-added services, and they vary from product line to product line or from trade line to trade line, are on the screen here. Different services in different industries, but they equate to the same thing, which is creating value for customers, and then the challenge that follows is trying to get paid for those services, whether it's through fees or through additional margins on the products that we sell. I told the story last week of the medical distributor who provided services to customers but was not able to get paid for them because the same sales force that sold products was also responsible for selling services, and in most cases the salespeople wanted to give the services to the customers rather, along with the products, on the theory that good product customers should get the services for free. And the resolution of the story was when the distributor separated the sales force from selling products, different sales force selling services, almost in a different company, so to speak. And that did solve the problem for them, as it did for IBM, as Lou Gerstner tells in his book, his story about selling services at IBM. His book is Why Elephants Can't Dance. Three approaches you can use. We talked about copying what competitors do, about creating services as a means of trying to hang on to customers that are at risk of going to competition, and then finally the idea of innovating services for key accounts, services that will create value for them. And we'll walk through those three approaches. Just to remind you, what does value added mean? It means customers willing to pay for it because they see the value, and we distributors typically either want to get paid through higher margins, that is for bundled services that are bundled with our products, or separate services, fees for services, which would be referred to as unbundled. So value-added service criteria would be meeting the four criteria you see on the screen. One is, of course, that they're valued by the customer, that they're profitable for the distributor to produce, that they are scalable, meaning, of course, that you can start small and you can build up, and also that the learning that you get from one customer on value-added services, learning that knowledge can be transferred and used to other customers. Of course, it's more efficient than starting from scratch with each customer. And the last criterion is that the services are not easy for competitors to duplicate. Of course, in this fast-paced world, it's very hard to create anything that can't be duplicated, but you don't want to make it easy for your competitors, so that stands for itself. Most of these services are not patentable. They are trade secrets, if you will, and hopefully they have some lasting value for the distributor that does create them. The first method, if you will, of creating value-added services for customers would be to simply copy what others are doing, and that's typically reactive, meaning that a customer asks you to do something for them, such as provide credit card payment convenience. That would be an example, a very simplified example, but reacting to a customer request or a customer demand. The customer says, I'm already getting this from somebody else, can you do it too, which would be just imitation. Naturally, services created in this manner are not distinctive, and it's very hard to get paid for them. Here's a credit card story. It's one that I like to refer to because so many distributors these days are accepting credit cards, which adds a great deal to our costs of doing business. Typically 2.5% or more of the sales proceeds go to the credit card processor, and they cost a lot of money to provide, but we don't get paid for them. In other words, we don't raise our prices and we don't charge a separate fee for using credit cards. And in this case, what does the customer want from the credit card? Well, for one thing, they want the frequent flyer miles, for example, in those programs. And frequent flyer miles If we pay 2.5 cents, 2.5%, in other words, we're paying 2.5 cents for each frequent flyer mile. That at best is valued by the customer at not more than a penny. So that's not very efficient. We may feel that we have an incentive to provide credit card services because we're going to get paid sooner, but even if we get paid 27 days sooner, I'm giving in my example here, if our normal payment cycle is 30 days from the customer, we get paid in 3 days, it's 27 days faster. That's an annual interest rate of 0.2%. It's not worth much to us. It's certainly not worth 2.5% of our sales dollar right off the top. But our salespeople very often, they have an incentive to encourage the customer to use credit cards because that way the sales rep at our own company can avoid dealing with our credit department, which might be cumbersome and creates more work for the sales rep. And insult added to injury is the example where a distributor is got a receivable from a customer that's already 60 days or 90 days past due, and they accept a credit card to settle that receivable, and then of course they turn around the next day and extend open account credit to that customer. So a good idea not to do unless you have a specific reason to use a credit card for a customer, such as setting up a new account where there's not much time to check the credit for the first order, or possibly to sell a customer whose credit is marginal, which is fine as long as you're being paid for that extra cost. So the challenge we have as wholesale distributors is we're very good at creating value and adding value for our customers, but frankly we're not very good at getting paid for it, and this is across the board in wholesale distribution. We really need to improve our process of creating value-added services, and we need to understand our own operating costs better, the cost of providing those services, as well as understanding the value our customers receive from our value-added services. More on this next week. I look forward to talking with you then. Until then, this is Brent Grover from Evergreen Consulting for Advanced Supply Chain Solutions, powered by IBIS. Thanks.